Tell me if you've ever done this. You're watching a TV show or a movie and somebody says something funny in a funny way, and you instinctively chuckle and repeat exactly what they said, exactly the way they said it. I think that's a very universal thing, and it has to do a lot with catching people by surprise. Now, one of the ways to impart that surprise as a voice actor is to give your character quirks, vocal quirks. So stick around and we'll talk all about the element of quirks. Hello, welcome back to Character Voice Building with me, Fernando Macias. I'm here to help you build and develop well-rounded character voices. So, we are in the dimensionality category, and I really enjoy this part. It's really a way to add an extra level of personality and uniqueness to your characters that are not necessarily part of the script itself. This is the second to last element in the RCSB framework, and it is the quirks element. Okay, so what are quirks? I define quirks as unique and distinctive forms of pronunciation that are not necessarily tied to an accent. So we talked in the accent video about how a big part of the accent is that pronunciation of certain phonemes. This is not necessarily tied to that. Now, to give you an example of what I mean, a good example of a quirk would be a lisp. A lisp where you substitute the S for the TH. So for example, I saw Samantha at the supermarket. That kind of thing. Now, of course, a lisp is only one quirk, and then there's very, very many different kinds. Now, I'm going to give you 5, and I'm sure you'll be able to come up with some on your own later on, but I think these 5 are fairly common in what you hear in, popular culture at the moment. These are what I call creative quirks. So, for example, one of them could be accenting the wrong syllable. So you might have the word vegetables and Germany. So instead of saying vegetables, you could say vegetables, okay? Instead of Germany, you could say Germani. Another creative quirk could be adding extra suffixes to words, meaning adding something to the end of the word. So for example, instead of vegetables, you could say vegetabelles or Germania. Substituting phonemes, particularly from other accents, is a good and efficient way to do a creative quirk. So instead of saying vegetables, you could say vegetables. Or instead of Germany, you could say Germany. Softening or hardening certain phonemes could also work. So for example, you could say vegetables like that, V, touching the teeth with the back of your lip, V, or V, vegetables. That could be considered a quirk. Or instead of Germany, you could say Germany. So the trilled R, hard R. One last creative quirk that I'll share with you is repeating sounds within words. So instead of saying vegetables, you say vegetables. Or instead of saying Germany, you say Germany. Now, these are only 5 examples of what creative quirks could be. I'm sure you might be able to find many, many more out there that could be considered quirks. Now, all of these creative quirks add a layer of personality and singularity to your character without necessarily infringing into writing. It's just a pronunciation of that writing. This is a good time to mention that this whole element of quirks is a good one to use sparingly, mainly as contrast points, points of interest, or points of focus, as just general spice. If you choose to do this all the time, then it has to be subtle. Otherwise, it gets very tiring very quickly. Lisps you can get away with because, for many, it's a condition and they have to live with it. So you do hear that in everyday life. So that's kind of common and part of, life. But the others can be a little bit much. So, for example, if you decide to accentuate the wrong syllable in every noun, it can get really annoying real quick. So, for example, I went to the supermarkets and found a banana dipped in chocolate. That's a lot. Can you imagine an entire episode of that? It would be exhausting. But instead, if you go, I went to the supermarket and found a banana dipped in chocolate, that is more of a point of interest and focus. It makes it much more humorous. Remember, the fun or the entertainment comes from the surprise. So if you do it too often, then the surprise doesn't exist anymore. People expect it, so the magic is gone. Now, with that said, I think it's a good idea to come up with general rules of when and how to use your quirks. So it can be as simple or as arbitrary as you want, but I think some sort of predictability can make it easier for people to quote, imitate, and it just makes it easier for it to stick in their minds. Now, these two things I just told you might seem contradictory. Don't use it too often, but make it predictable. Well, it's not really contradictory. Timing is everything. If frequency of occurrence is too high, then it loses its charm. If it's too frequent, it might get old, but a pattern doesn't have to be that frequent. So establishing a pattern can really make a character consistent and, what people look forward to. In comedy particularly, surprise is one of your biggest laughter triggers. But there is another laughter trigger, which is recognition. And that can be extremely, extremely satisfying and just as impactful. Now, just examples of arbitrary rules that you could set for when you do your quirks. You could say, for countries or cities, get an added suffix. So instead of Argentina, it's Argentina. Or when the character wants something, the accented syllable gets switched. Like, oh, I'd love Merlot by the Rose Gardens. Could be when the character's trying to sound interesting and get the spotlight in front of people. You trill the R's. I remember the ocean breeze in Buenos Aires. A rule could be just saying a single word differently. So instead of saying bagels, you say bagels. It's really completely up to you when and where to apply them.
Example 1.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Price Smiles, and I'm here to help you with your performance. I have taught some of the greatest in acting. For example, Steven Seagal and others. Now, won't you please be a doll and fetch me my raisins? They maintain my aura in check. Ridiculous.
Example 2.
Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Randy Explosion. I'm here to kick some ass, put some people on the ropes, and win this championship. I've got muscles of steel, an impeccable hairline, and deadly fists. As you can tell, this is getting annoying real quickly, but the audience is meant to be annoyed by this character.
Example 3.
So for the industry examples, I have 3. Let's start first with somebody from real life. We have Salvador Dali. Now, he used a lot of misplaced accents. Now, this is part of his foreign accent, but really, it is deeply part of who he is, and it would be impossible to do an accurate impression of him without those misplaced accents. So first, let's look at a clip of just Salvador Dali.
Cauliflower represents exactly the same morphological problem of one horn of rhinoceros. Plenty of the same pattern of sunflower. And Leonardo da Vinci.
The cauliflower is the same pattern as the sunflower.
Exactly, the same pattern is crossing logarithmic spirals.
Fortunately, this is one of the situations where we actually have an actor portraying that real person. We have Adrian Brody portraying Salvador Dali in Midnight in Paris.
The rhinoceros makes love by mounting the female. But is there difference in the beauty between two rhinoceroses?
The second example I have is Zim from Invader Zim. He does that a lot. He has a lot of quirks. They're not necessarily completely predictable in a very formalized way. But for example, he likes to use contrast words, like saying like cow, that kind of thing. He also does like strong T's when he's trying to be very ominous and very, powerful. He really enunciates those T's very strongly. He also just elongates certain things just to basically give it that kind of added melodrama that he tends to add.
Soon the name of Invader Zim will be synonymous with Dookie! Grr, bring me cow? You dare tell me what I already know? Yes, very nice. Now into the ocean with you where you can tell no one of these things.
And the last one, and my favorite by far in this category, is Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek, portrayed by Catherine O'Hara. The way Catherine O'Hara does all these quirks is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It's great because she's playing this kind of conflicted person who, like, the character wants to be in the spotlight. So to give her that extra edge, that extravagance, it's not enough just to have the crazy, costumes and the wigs and all that stuff. The voice has to be also super unique, which can result in being something erratic, something that just sounds weird. It's no particular accent in particular. She tends to substitute pronunciations from other languages randomly. It's really strange. This is an absolute masterclass in quirks. I wish I could give you more examples, but I only found a limited number of clips on YouTube, and I unfortunately couldn't get any from Netflix, but here's a few.
Where is Bebe's chamber? Either way, great progress for Bebe.
Come taste the difference good fruit can make in your wine. It's almost as though we're building towards some sort of inevitable climax. What is the source of this falsehood?
Children, mindless bickering is a luxury we may no longer afford.
Awkward moment in our parent-child relationship.
Nothing you couldn't see fall out of a common Christmas cracker.
I don't know, David. Why did you steal my eyeliner?
That was a phase.
David, my nails aren't dry yet.
So that was the quirks element. This is an excellent element to add an extra spice and personality to your character voice. If you use it sparingly and tastefully, you can really create a voice and a character that really sticks in people's minds. So next week, I'm going to be releasing the very last element spotlight video of the RCSB framework series. Yay, you made it! Thank you so much to every single one of you who has been following me so far, and I'll see you in the last one. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope this helps you develop your character voices further. Please like and subscribe and check out What the World podcast. It is an improvised comedy show done completely in character, and it's mainly there just as my personal practice, but anybody can listen to it. Perhaps they'll help in understanding how to apply these concepts to specific characters, and hopefully do them on your own. Thanks again, have a great time, be kind, and I'll see you soon.